Uh, uh, I'm a warrior.
And 29 other teams gasping for air. In a Monday night stunner, DeMarcus Cousins agreed to a one-year deal with the Warriors. Sure, Cousins is coming off an Achilles injury, which could keep him sidelined until the calendar year 2019. But for $5.3 million, the Dubs get one of the most versatile bigs in the NBA. And Steph Curry saying, yeah, come on, we got a third splash brother, a guy who can shoot the three. How's that European vacation going for Draymond Green, who helped recruit DeMarcus Cousins to the Bay Area? Leave it to the Warriors to steal the spotlight from LeBron James. Just 24 hours after LeBron joins the Lakers, the winner of 3 of the last 4 NBA titles gets DeMarcus Cousins. Welcome to Free Agent Fever. I'm Jared Greenberg. We'll get you up to speed on who else will be joining LeBron on the Lakers roster, plus Summer League highlights, including a Marvin Bagley dunk you gotta see. First, NBA.com's Sekou Smith joins us by way of the phone with the rich getting richer. Sekou, it's not just that the Warriors get DeMarcus Cousins, it's that nobody else got DeMarcus Cousins. How did the market allow this to happen?
Well, it's crazy, Jared. Apparently nobody else wanted DeMarcus Cousins. He didn't get one single offer at 12:01 when free agency kicked off. He reached out to Bob Myers and the Warriors to gauge their interest in him. And from that initial conversation, word I'm sure spread around, that Warriors roster, and those guys started reaching out to Cousins and letting him know that absolutely he'd be wanted, on that team. And the rest, as they say, is history. Like DeMarcus said, he's a Warrior.
Yeah, and he is, and a guy that can do it all, but first he's got to get healthy. If indeed, Sekou, he is healthy at some point this season and into what is expected to be yet another long playoff run, how dangerous does he make this team and become almost a trade deadline pickup, if you will?
Well, it's unprecedented, Jared. I can't remember a time when we looked at a roster and the starting 5 potentially had all been all-stars or all-NBA players. It's remarkable that the Warriors have stumbled into yet another piece of good fortune. The circumstance that leads DeMarcus Cousins to their roster in a year after they won back-to-back titles. Kevin Durant put together 2 back-to-back Finals MVP seasons, and here you are getting, arguably when he's healthy, the best big man in the league. It gives them a dynamic that they haven't had throughout this run, not even with Andrew Bogut, who was a defensive-minded center who could really affect the game on both ends of the floor. They haven't had a big man who could score inside and out the way DeMarcus Cousins can. And if you unleash him in the playoffs, you're talking about him inside and the Splash Brothers and Kevin Durant outside with Draymond Green playing center field on defense. It'll be a nightmare.
Talk about the death lineup taken to the next level. Sekou, clearly it appears to be a win-win for both the Warriors and DeMarcus Cousins, who hopes to cash in both with his play and maybe even with his reputation around the league for a big-time deal a year from now. But what about for the league as a whole, when so many people clamoring for parity, and people didn't like it when Durant went to the Warriors? Is this signing a good thing for the NBA?
Well, look, people are going to be complaining about parity and the lack thereof, the tilting of power to the Western Conference with LeBron James, going to Los Angeles. But the truth of the matter is, Jared, the Warriors have just happened on some unbelievable luck. The salary cap spike leads to Kevin Durant, being able to join them a couple of years ago in free agency. An Achilles injury and the market being a little bit tighter this summer leads to DeMarcus Cousins joining them, on a one-year deal for the mid-level, which is insane that you're going to get him for that price. And that's just about pure happenstance. It's not like the Warriors plotted this out or calculated this whole thing, but the fact that they were there and their culture was intact and allowed them to recruit these guys tells you something about, I remember when Joe Lacob said that the Warriors were light years ahead of everybody else around the league, and everybody got really upset, took offense to what he said. But the results seem to favor Joe Lacob.
NBA.com, Sekou Smith. I'm not sure just how much of a talent DeMarcus Cousins truly is. Boogie, just one of 7 in NBA history to average at least 25 points, 12 boards, and 5 assists during a single season. When Cousins tore his Achilles, he was 8th in the league in scoring, 3rd in rebounding, and 21st in assists. Well, let's bring in now Greg Anthony and Billy King for more on this. And guys, prior to suffering a torn Achilles back in late January, the argument could be made that Cousins was actually having a better season at that time than Anthony Davis, who went on to finish 3rd in the MVP voting, right? So how did a 6-time All-Star, Billy, how did he fall into the Warriors' lap?
Well, it became the place, that was the only place he had options for, because other teams had spent their money, and he really didn't get off from New Orleans. I think a lot of people were worried about his Achilles. And so teams that didn't have cap space, the non-playoff teams, they weren't going to spend it on him and give him a long-term deal. A lot of other teams spent their mid-level. They were playoff teams. This is one of the options. There were a few teams out there that had this amount of money. So he looked at it and said, if I'm going to play for that amount of money, I'm going to go play for the best team.
Well, GA, in 8 seasons in the league, Cousins has put up a whole bunch of numbers. There's no question about that. But he's also been right in the center of a lot of controversy during his time in the league, everything from coaches to referees to getting into it with media members. How much can a season with the Warriors on and off the court kind of change all of that?
I think that's a great question, and I think it will help the maturation process. I think their locker room and their culture is strong enough to have him conform. And I think also the fact that he's going to have to rehab, in essence, the better part of the first half of the season, you would expect is going to allow him a chance to do some kind of self-assessment and figuring out, okay, what kind of player do I want to be? Because he's going to get to see what a championship looks like firsthand, not just aspiring to be one. So I think it's a win-win for both. And I will also say this, too, like from a money standpoint, the Achilles meant he wasn't getting a max deal.
Right.
So there are teams out there that have money. He could have gotten more money than he got, but he wasn't going to get, to Billy's point, a long-term deal. And, again, why not go somewhere where I don't have the pressure to have to get back out on the court? They're basically, they could be potentially paying him just to rehab, get right, and it's also an opportunity for them to audition for him if they do want to sign a long-term deal. Because remember, Kevin Durant did do a 1-and-1. Mm-hmm. Draymond Green's going to be up a year from now. Yep. Klay Thompson's going to be up. So you don't really know what this Warriors dynasty is going to look like a season from now. This gives them an opportunity to kind of revamp on the fly if some of those guys ultimately end up taking more lucrative deals elsewhere.
That's a nice insurance policy to have.
It's a nice one.
Guys, Mark Spears from The Undefeated tweeting on Monday night, telling DeMarcus Cousins told Spears that Cousins is shooting to return for training camp. Now, I'm not very good at math, but I think that would put him about 7 months after tearing his Achilles. You've had this injury. Is that at all realistic that Cousins thinks he can be back by training camp?
Well, it's not realistic if he wants to have a long NBA career after he rehabs on this, because it's going to take time. And I think the Golden State Warriors are going to make sure he takes time, because you don't want him to come back too soon and not be ready. They need him really for March, April, and deep into the playoffs. So they're going to be very patient with him and let him really recover nicely. Because the biggest thing with this surgery, once it suits you back together, you've got to stretch it back out. You've got to strengthen that, that Achilles and that heel up. And so it takes time. When I did it in May, and I was jogging on a treadmill by October, but I wasn't an NBA player. I was just trying to get to the point where I could walk without a limp. He's going to be out there where he's running and competing. So the great thing for him is to be able to get back on the court and wants to be able to practice 5-on-5 and get in that situation before he has to go in a game. So if he's back before February, maybe even after All-Star break, that would be a great bonus for them.
All right. Well, still much more to come on all of the reaction from around the world, as everyone's stunned that Cousins is going to the Warriors, including, we'll tell you how Kevin Durant helped make the money work to get Boogie. Now on to a story that has been pushed somehow, some way, from the headline to our number 2 story of the show, LeBron to the Lakers and an endorsement from Laker royalty.
He fully understands what this organization is about, and he's not afraid of that challenge. The beautiful thing about this organization is that there are a lot of jerseys hanging in the rafters that you can bounce ideas off of. You can be a sounding board for. Magic's done that for me. James Worthy's done that. Jerry West's done that. Kareem's done that. And we all rally around each other to try to help our organization be successful. So I think Brian certainly understands the pressure. He certainly understands the level of expectation. And he wants to get a championship back to the city of Los Angeles, and we're all here to help him do it.
Well, the Laker roster not complete just yet. Monday night, LA reportedly agreed to terms with Rajon Rondo. Last season, Rondo fourth in the NBA in assists, a huge reason the Pels returned to the playoffs and reached the second round of the postseason. So Rondo going and Randle leaving. The Lakers busy making the money work, renounced the rights to Julius Randle, making him an unrestricted free agent. Randle didn't waste any time, quickly getting a deal to play with Anthony Davis in New Orleans. So Rondo and Cousins out, Randle is in. So the Lakers roster around LeBron James starting to take shape. The new additions feature some big personalities and some guys who have shown that they prefer to play with the ball in their hand. And none of them really shoot the three ball particularly well. And during LeBron's eight straight trips to the NBA Finals, and he's had the likes guys of, think about it, Ray Allen, Shane Battier, Mike Miller, J.R. Smith, and Kyle Korver around him. What are your thoughts on who the Lakers have added, GA, here over the first 2 days of free agency?
Well, I think they've made really solid moves. Again, you got to keep perspective. He signed a 4-year deal, which when he signed a 4-year deal, that should tell everybody it's a process. I'm not expecting us to win it this year, but we're putting pieces in place that are going to allow us. Rondo's 1-year deal does two things. One, it gives them a guy who's been in the fire, who's won a world championship. It's going to help mentor some of those young players, and it also allows LeBron to have another facilitator out there. Plus, it's going to help Lonzo Ball's development, I think, as well, because he's another guy who has struggled with his shot but still has all the other facets. I just think overall they're going to be solid. I think they'll be a playoff team. But remember, I think their thoughts are still about how can we get another A-list guy? Yeah. Is it going to be free agency next year where they're going to have cap space, or is it going to be a potential trade during the course of this upcoming season? So the jury's still out on their roster. And on who they ultimately are going to be, but they now have become far more relevant than they were a couple days ago, and the Western Conference just got a lot stronger.
So they didn't land Paul George in free agency or DeMarcus Cousins. You mentioned possibly a trade. Well, Kawhi Leonard's still a member of the Spurs as of this moment. However, there are media reports say that Kawhi still has his sights on one day becoming a Laker. We heard the same thing, though, with Paul George.
Yeah, exactly.
But now that the Lakers do have LeBron on the roster, Billy, do you feel like they have more or less pressure to go out and make a very aggressive and appealing offer to the Spurs to complete a trade for Kawhi?
Well, I agree with Greg. There's no rush. You got LeBron James right now, and he committed for 4 years, so you're not in a rush to win this year. So you don't want to do a deal just to get Kawhi and give up a lot of pieces and be stuck with just LeBron and Kawhi. So I think they're going to be patient. They're not going to give up the farm to San Antonio. And they may know San Antonio really doesn't want to trade him there. And everybody keeps sending reports he wants to play for the Lakers. He may want to play for the Clippers. He's from it's LA, and the Clippers are going to have room. So I think the Lakers right now are focused on putting guys around LeBron that can compete. They've got the young guys that can score. Kuzma and those guys, they make the Ingram can shoot it. But now they got some veteran guys. So if they are playing the Golden State Warriors, Lance Stevenson isn't going to back down. Rondo's not going to back down. So LeBron's got some guys that go in the trenches and battle with him. And that's really what they're doing to go along with the young guys. You can't win in this league with just young guys. So now they got some old guys to go with the young guys. So on certain nights, those young guys are going to have to give them the energy and keep it close so then the old guys can try to win it in the game.
Get your thoughts later on a team from the East that may want to make a push for Kawhi Leonard. Much more LeBron to the Lakers talk. Next, who will join LeBron and Luke Walton's starting five? And more reaction from the Warriors not being scared by the boogeyman. Plenty to get to, wrapping up day 2 of free agency 2018.